Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8 Second Gaming, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the most dominant teams in Apex. This is TSM in one of the ESA tournaments on Stormpoint. Imperialhal is one of the best in the game when it comes to closing out fights. He is able to very clearly set his team up in god spots, and we're going to go over exactly how he does it today. And if you guys like these styles of videos where I go over VOD reviews and talk about certain plays and you guys want to see more about this, you need to check out the GameLeap website right now. Over there, we have top level coaches, including myself, creating highly in-depth guides, all so that you can be the best Apex player you can be. So if you really want to improve at the game, click the link in the description, get yourself a membership today, and start climbing. So now to really understand this, we have to be looking at what kind of situation TSM is in this current spot. So round 5 is closing. It's a very end game circle. A lot of teams are still alive. As you can see, there are 6 squads left. There's a couple fighting on this building right here. They're up top. There's one inside the building, and there's some teams playing out here. So with this spot, TSM actually has a really good spot here because they have this really big bubble around them that teams can't really push into. They have a ton of real estate compared to everyone else, and they're in a very good spot. Now, a lot of people, when they look at these spots, they wouldn't really think that there's a lot to do because you're out in the open. You can see that Hal's being shot right here. You can see that bullets are coming by, and it wouldn't really seem like it's a very good area. But actually, there is a ton of space you can play. And it's kind of like one of those Lego tension bridges where people can't really push you, because if they push you, then they're throwing their own game. If, say, a team from up here was to push down here, then this team in the building would also push in, and they would also be shooting at them as they cross. So this team can't really push in down the hill because they get shot. They'd be throwing their own game. So TSM is able to hold this spot out here because of how nobody else can push them. And people can poke at them, but they have these little boxes in front of them. They have a lot of spots that they can play. So this isn't as bad of a spot as many people would think. So now going forward, we can see that Hal is just kind of healing up. He's trying to take a look at where people are. People are fighting on these buildings. And if you're in a situation like this, in an endgame spot where there's people fighting on a building like this, you have to be putting yourself in a position in order to pressure it. Because if somebody were to drop off the side right here, like if somebody were to land right here, you would need to be able to beam him and clean up that fight. Because you don't want to let them reset, you don't want to let them gain an advantage, because this spot on top of the roof here is actually pretty good, and it would be able to really mess with Hal and his team. So while these guys are fighting, they need to be pressuring it, because you need to make sure that teams can't play good spots like that if they aren't able to. You need to make sure that they are always aware that you are right there and are able to kill them. So they're looking at fighting these guys right here. Reps is able to get a knock. They're trying to throw in as much as they can. They're getting a bunch of damage out, and they're trying to kill these 2 squads so that they can get them out of the game completely. The zone is closing in. Gibraltar alts are coming down. So once they're able to wipe them completely and they know that nobody's on that roof anymore, they can start to look around. So now that this is final circle, we can start to see that Hal is processing where to go. And if you're playing a character like an entry fragger like Hal is, he's playing he's playing Ash. I don't know why I said Wraith, he's usually on Wraith. But Hal's playing Ash, so he's looking to where they can play. Do they have to swing up here? Do they have to really pressure this team off so that they can Ash portal over there? Do they have to go back towards the building? What do they have to do? So if you're playing the entry fragger, if you're an IGL for your team, you have to be making sure that your team is able to play something. So as they're looking to protect you, you need to be looking at where to go once you're able to find a spot. So once Hal looks around and is able to see where all the other teams are playing, he then deems the best course of action is to pressure the team that's in the building. As soon as this team that's inside this building runs out, they have 2 options. They can either come towards Hal, or they can go towards this tree and try to play over there. If TSM is pressuring them, as soon as they run out, they're going to get beamed and they cannot go this way. So they only have 1 option left. And if you're in this situation, you need to understand that teams are going to be panicking in this spot. So if you can add to that panic and you can force them into spots that they don't want to play, you can really control a ton of the circle. If Hal is able to push that team to the opposite direction, then he's just extended his bubble so much, and there's so much real estate that TSM is playing and they control so much of this circle. So there's going to be 3 teams that have split this circle up into 3 equal spots. If you can imagine that it's like a pie chart and it gets split into 3 parts. TSM has the vast majority of that pie. So because they have that majority, they have so much space to play, and they're really forcing the other teams to fight each other, and then they can come and clean up for the win. So if you're playing in a ranked game and you're looking at what you need to be able to do to win, it's basically controlling the vast majority of the circle by forcing other teams into uncomfortable spots. They're not really doing a whole lot right now. As you can see, they're all pretty much huddled up in one little circle, and this wouldn't look like they have a really good spot, but they actually do because of how they're able to manipulate the other teams. Because they have a really good vantage point on this team that has to run out of the building, they're able to force them into spots that they don't want to play. And then they're able to make their spot be so much better. So as the game goes on, and as these teams are going to be forced into very uncomfortable spots, Hal is just constantly looking around. And as an IGL, this is something that you need to do, because you need to be paying attention to what other teams are doing. Because if you make a plan and you just cement that in your head and then you don't pay attention, you don't look around, then you don't know what the other teams are doing, and your plan could happen to change because somebody does something that you weren't expecting. If you were to say, hey, we're going to go to this spot, and then a team moves there and you didn't really pay attention to it, then you have to panic and come up with something on the fly. So as an IGL, always be looking around, always be checking to see where teams are, and always be kind of having your team do the same. You don't have to be doing everything alone. You can do everything kind of as a team and make sure that teams are working together. So Hal is constantly diving back and forth. And then as these teams start to run out, you can see that he has his 2 teammates positioned in the same spot. Wow, that was a horrible circle. You can see that his 2 teammates are positioned in the same spot right here. So they're going to be shooting right here. Hal has another area right here that he can kind of crossfire and create different angles of attack. And as this team runs out, you can see that one is forced out here, and it's the Wraith. And the Wraith immediately gets down because she's not able to come this way. Hal's team is able to just kill her instantly, and now that team is forced to run out to that side. And they don't want to be on that side because that side is immediately in a team. You can see that 2 Gibraltar are coming down. And now Hal's team is able to just sit back and watch this. All because he was looking around, he made the best course of attack as basically just forcing this team to go into another team. And now they're able to just sit back and watch and have this carnage unfold in front of them. And they're able to basically just clean up kills while they sit and watch. Because these 2 teams committed on each other so hard, the other team behind, so there was a team over here, a team in the building that had to run into these guys. So these 2 teams fought. There was a team up here that is now looping behind this 3rd team. So TSM has a huge bubble now because all of these teams are fighting over here, and this team did get wiped out. So now TSM has this ginormous slice of the pie from before, and they are able to make so much use out of this that they're able to just basically walk around for free. Hal is walking out in the open right now, and nobody's attacking him because they're all forced into each other and they're all not sure what to do. So he's able to slide up to the side, get some good damage out, and this is Hal actually messes up here in a second because he does get a second knock and he goes for the ultimate immediately. His team isn't quite with him. One team member is, it's Reps is over here, as you can see. So the Gibraltar is not with them, and the Gibraltar in close range fights for bubbles is huge. So Hal gets a little overzealous here, and this is something that you don't want to do if you're playing a game like this. You want to make sure that your teammates are right next to you if you're going to commit to a fight like this, because all 3 of you need to go in at the same time. So because Hal goes in basically alone at the start, he's the center of attention and just gets immediately beamed. His teammates were fairly close by, so it's not as bad because the Gibraltar was able to get a bubble and res him. But if he was to be just a second or 2 later, then Hal probably could have been thirsted by this person that had the 30-30 out in the middle of nowhere, and Hal probably would have died. So now they've taken God Spot. Because those 2 teams were fighting and basically were in shambles, Hal was able to Ash Portal with the full team, take this high ground right here, and basically swiped God Spot out from underneath them. They have a huge ledge now. They've basically just turned their big piece of the pie into a smaller piece, but a better piece because they have high ground. They're able to play head glitches. They have a lot more cover.
So they've basically just swapped spots with teams. And they're able to do that because they had so much pressure because all the other teams were fighting because they made one team run into a spot that they didn't want to be in. So now they're able to just play these head glitches, peek down on people because they're forced to play directly under them, and the other two teams are focused on each other instead of the people that are above them. So now TSM is able to just sit up top here and win this fight very easily. And it's just simple cleanup kills at this point. They're all three up, and they're able to get just a huge win, all because of how Hal was able to set his team up in the end game spot, and they were able to just dominate the entire time. They were applying pressure on teams. They knew where teams couldn't and could play. They made teams go into very uncomfortable spots, and then when those teams were in those uncomfortable spots and were fighting each other, they didn't overcommit to it. They didn't dive in because they wanted the kills instead of everybody else. They let the fights unfold, and then they were able to hop in and clean everything else up because they were able to just sit back and wait. So that's another thing that you guys need to be paying attention to in your games. Don't hop into fights just because you can hop into the fights. Sit back, wait for them to unfold, wait for teams to kind of commit on each other, use their abilities, use their utility, and then you can come in for the cleanups. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. TSM is a fantastic team to watch if you guys are looking at how to win endgame circles. If you guys want to see more amazing Apex Legends tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm 8 Second Gaming, and I will see you in the next one.